All right, let's get to your news today, shall we? Let's dive into it. The Washington Post has deleted part of its interview with Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky. Why would they do that? Apparently, they don't want you to see his response to what they asked him and the testy exchange that was in the Washington Post. Like, this is a newspaper, right? It's supposed to be "Democracy dies in the dark" is their tagline, and yet they're deleting parts of their interview, hoping we won't notice that it was gone, but we did, and we will have that for you. So the Washington Post made it redacted. They made it disappear. We've got a copy of it. It's actually pretty revealing. We're going to go through it in a moment, but first, some big war update news. Remember all the talk about those depleted uranium shells that the British government were going to send to Ukraine? Well, NATO was going to use them against Russia, ensuring that every last Ukrainian, of course, would die. That's the goal of NATO, instead of starting peace talks, because they don't care at all about Ukrainians. They care about money and war, and they don't give a shit about Ukrainians. The poor people of Ukraine who are being walked all over right now because of these warmongers. Depleted uranium renders soil unusable for decades, perhaps hundreds of years, and causes devastating cancers. By the way, if you want to see what it does to people, just remember the United States and the UK use them in Iraq. To horrible effects. Just Google. I'm not going to show you any images of it. It's horrible. But if you want to see it yourself, just Google the words depleted uranium Iraq. And you can see for yourself the horrific pictures of Iraqi children born with all sorts of birth defects. And of course, the British are excited to use these once again in Ukraine. Remember how Annabel Goldie, the British Minister of Defense, admitted that they were sending these depleted uranium shells to Ukraine for use against Russia in those tanks that they were sending to Ukraine. She was proud to tell us this. She said this publicly, so this is not something that the internet is creating as a conspiracy theory. It came right out of the British government's mouth. Then a few days later, it was caught on camera, the caught on camera edition. British soldiers in a tank training video captured this. So these are the still images from this video. These are the depleted uranium shells. Teaching Ukrainian tank rookies how to use these depleted uranium shells. Those depleted uranium shells were then on the table during this little propaganda film here. See if you can spot them here on the table. Watch.
And one track will be slightly looser. One track will be a lot tighter.
Oh, there they are. So this is the British teaching them how they're going to load these tanks and how they're going to use them. The British are so nice, right? I mean, they're British military is so great.
Okay, everyone, gather around. It's time for murder class.
We show you how cancer works.
Yeah.
How to destroy your country. It's amazing. Like no Ukrainians are like, hey, so in East.
This won't backfire on us, right?
Yeah, how like in Eastern Ukraine, like all of that really fertile soil that's sort of considered some of the best soil in the world. Like that's our land. We're going to use this stuff.
We're going to use this on land we want back.
Right. Okay. On our people that we pretend we haven't been hitting and killing for in a genocide for the last 9 years. But so it all makes sense, I guess.
Makes total sense.
How much do you want to bet that all the U.S. people that were there say, hey, you guys can't be on camera. Can you guys like step off to the side over here? We can't see any U.S. flags on your uniforms.
Right.
Yeah, hide all the U.S. flags. All the United States people, just go to the cafeteria. We just got to
for murder class.
This is a British propaganda film that we can't have any Americans in it. Then Putin responded, of course, to all of this, telling us that he knew what the British were up to, and he told us exactly what he planned to do. He wasn't bluffing. Watch.
Что Великобритания устами заместителя главы Министерства обороны этой страны объявила не только о поставках танков на Украину, но и снарядов с объединенным ураном. Похоже, что Запад действительно решил воевать с Россией до последнего украинца уже не на словах, а на деле. Но хотел бы в этой связи отметить, что если все это будет происходить, то соответствующим образом Россия вынуждена будет реагировать, имея в виду, что коллективный Запад начинает применять уже оружие с ядерным компонентом.
Yeah, so he was going to take action on those and blow them up. He was going to blow them up. He wasn't bluffing about that. And he also reiterated those remarks in another speech. Well, this weekend, we learned that the UK government have, in fact, just supplied NATO forces in Ukraine with long-range missiles. They're sending a lot of these long-range missiles that can travel up to 155 kilometers to target inside of mainland Russia. So all of these things happening at the same time. long-range weapons, depleted uranium, and talk of a summer offensive against Putin. So what did Russia do overnight to those depleted uranium stockpiles in a giant warehouse with all of these other NATO munitions? This is what Russia just did. Watch. Yeah, that's the massive, massive explosion of depleted uranium shells, among other weapons that NATO keeps sending. These, it's amazing, that these things wind up in these massive warehouses. Russia knows exactly where they are, and it launches Iskander missiles and destroys all of them. What is the purpose of billions of dollars being sent for this stuff? Here's another one. Here's another warehouse, another ammunition depot that was also blown up this morning. Yep, there it is. And hit multiple targets, no civilian areas. This was specifically ammunition depots, according to the reports. And they're saying, this is the thing. NATO created this mess. More NATO ammunition depots these are the only two that we're showing you, but there was plenty more. Tens of millions of dollars of ammunition hit by Russian Iskander missiles. Money well spent. Money well spent.
Well, you have two options. You're going to blow that up if you know where it is, or you're going to wait and say, oh, I hope it doesn't come my way, right? He said exactly what he was going to do. And the West still thought that was a worth it type gamble to send those and put those there.
Well, and we've heard, we know exactly what the goal is. The goal is to push back to boundaries pre-war and to topple Putin. Now, we've heard that right out of the U.S. Congress's mouth. This only ends with the end of Putin. So you think Putin's going to sit there and allow depleted uranium shells to be fired against their tanks? Probably not. And that was the response. What did we think was going to happen? That's exactly what happened. So now the question is, well, what does this do? Is this like East Palestine now? Like clouds of radioactive chemicals in the air? Groundwater, soil? What's going to happen here? Now, according to Russia this afternoon, according to this is a Russian member of parliament, a nuclear safety expert from Russia. His name is Maxim Shingarkin. He says this pushing now by the West of depleted uranium is in the atmosphere and it's killed. He's like, no, that's a total lie. Don't fall for that lie. These are his words. He says that it would have to be heated up to thousands of degrees Kelvin, like 14,000 degrees Kelvin for that to happen. And the only way that happens is if they're fired in battle, not like this. So here's him explaining it. Let's see if you agree. Listen.
Украинские СМИ распространяют информацию о радиационном загрязнении территории Хмельницкой области якобы по вине Российской Федерации. Сразу можно сказать, что это откровенная ложь. Да, действительно, на территории Хмельницкой области находились склады с боеприпасами, в том числе для английских танков, в том числе с боеприпасами, которые в своем составе имеют уран. По сути дела, это такие бронебойные урановые сердечники, задача которых пробивать броню. Но могли ли они испариться от взрывов химических боеприпасов и стать источником радиационного загрязнения? Здесь нужно четко понимать. Дело в том, что такой сердечник потому и делается из урана, что его задача на высокой скорости ударить в броню и, приходя во взаимодействие с толстой стальной броней, расплавляясь, проникать внутрь за счет высокой ударной энергии. И только в этом случае достигается температура плавления, и эта температура 1400 кельвинов. Но сколько бы ни взрывали рядом с этими урановыми сердечниками обычные химические боеприпасы, а тротил, гексоген — это все первая сотня градусов в точке взрыва, нельзя добиться ни фактически разрушения этих боеприпасов, тем более никакого испарения, которое к тому же должно стать масштабным радиационным загрязнением. Еще раз поясню. Масштабное радиационное загрязнение возникнет, если киевская хунта начнет применять эти боеприпасы на территории России и Украины в ходе боестолкновения.
Well, I have an idea.
Yeah.
I mean, look, this is a Russian guy saying this, so we don't know.
It's a Russian member of parliament.
This is not science that I can verify. It, right
I've
here
never
and
played,
now.
When I was a kid playing with depleted uranium shells in the sandbox,
right,
and I would, try to light them on fire or use my magnifying glass like I was burning ants.
Oh.
I never
reached
had
1400 Kelvin.
Yeah, never reached 1400 Kelvin, so I didn't end up with.
Okay, well, here's my idea. The United Nations IAEA could come out and verify the nuclear radiation or any kind of radiation in this area. But wait, they have refused. Russia has invited them into the Donbass area which was being shelled around the Zaporizhia power plant. Yeah. They came in, they looked around, and they said, "Stop doing this," and they left. That was really all we got, right? Russia continues to invite them to come and look at these battle sites. They have not wanted to do so. So if we wanted a neutral body to validate the science, well, they could.
Well, we could also rewind.
They don't want to.
But we could also rewind the tape a little bit back to when the British Minister of Defense saying we're going to send depleted uranium to Ukraine. Then they're caught on camera in that propaganda film showing them off. And then, according to Russia and according to Ukraine, that's what they hit in this attack, in this massive explosion.
Right. But what that guy was saying was it would only be dangerous under these conditions. And that's something that we can't verify. Probably plenty of people in our chat could because they're brilliant. But right. So what we're saying is there then a neutral body that could do that? Well, we don't know because the neutral body that would do this has shown themselves utterly uninterested in any kind of nuclear fallout in the eastern region of Ukraine since the war began, even though Russia has repeatedly invited them.
Yeah. Some people saying Rumble is down. I don't know. Rumble's been under a lot of attacks lately. I don't know if that's the case. Do you guys know if Rumble's down?
It's running fine for me. I'm looking at it.
All right. We've got about 10,000.
It's running a bit behind. So
okay. It's a little slow. But yeah, I know Rumble's been under a lot of attacks from DDoS attacks. So I'm sure that YouTube is not a fan of them. So anyway, Germany announced that they're not done sending weapons to Ukraine, sending the largest new weapons package yet to Ukraine. Olaf Scholz announcing nearly $3 billion in aid going to Ukraine, more weapons. So that means more weapons can be just blown up by Russia in this never-ending, war. That's what we're slipping towards. There's growing concern that maybe sending more ammunition and money to Ukraine might not be the best idea. Imagine that. That actually prompted one of Zelensky's top advisors, Podolyak, to go on television threatening Europe. See if you find this to be a threat. I'll let it up to you. I won't lead the witness.
You already have done that.
All right. I see it as a threat to Europe.
Okay.
That's the way that I see it. That these are threatening words. Like if you don't send more money to Ukraine, more weapons, there will be terror attacks in Europe.
I'm not going to lead you into what I think this is, but I think this is it.
Yeah. I'm not going to tell you I'm not going to tell you he's an asshole, but he's an asshole.
All right, let's watch for ourselves.
No, totally draw your own conclusions. So he's basically saying,
stop talking. Roll the tape.
Let me just be contextual here. He says if you don't send more weapons to Ukraine, there will be basically terror attacks against Europe. Watch.
Пан Борель мав би продовжити сказати, якщо ми перестанемо давати зброю Україні, це буде означати, що Україна буде загеноцидена повністю, що після цього почнеться війна в інших країнах, що після цього суттєво збільшиться кількість терактів у Європі, і після цього ми взагалі в Європі більше не будемо собі сидіти в ресторанчиках і їсти круасани спокійно, тому що не ми будемо вже керувати процесами і політичними, і іншими процесами у Європі. Оце треба продовжувати просто казати, тому що сьогодні така ставка.
Okay.
Don't get used to your croissant and coffee.
So, yeah, if we don't get more weapons, if deliveries don't come to us, then there will be an increase in terror attacks in Europe. Draw the connection, draw the lines there.
They must hire the same propaganda firm that we hire in the U.S. Does this sounds so familiar?
Right. That's the whole fight them here so you don't have to fight them there.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it's all of the talking points of the Iraq War.
Strike that, reverse it.
It's the whole talking points of the Iraq War, right? It's we've got to stop we've got to stop the evildoers. We've got to stop them, or terrorism is going to come to our backyard. Are you scared of terrorists because they're on their way? That's the whole game plan.
But he's not saying that it will be Russian terrorists.
No, he's just saying terrorists. So who's going to do the terrorizing? Who is it? Who's going to? We didn't get our weapons.
It's just the whole.
You're going to have terrorism.
Yeah, it's the whole if we don't get our weapons, the terrorists win. What terrorists? I don't know. It works in the U.S., so they're not exactly sure, but they know it's a popular phrase here.
I mean, this is definitely
well, I
like
think it's just suggested that it's Russia. I mean, I think people understand that that's who they mean.
Well, I'm not so
Because
sure
you hear them
because